Howdy howdy, today we're going to be talking about how to play private games with friends on H2M. So these are going to be the steps we're going to go over having H2M, understand the difference between local and public, security disclaimer, get files, understand what the files do, the batch file, CFG files, Radmin, not a real VPN, how to connect, and version 1.05 was created because me. Thanks to Blazerfuck Gaming Video, Overcast by H2M Community. Now, okay, we'll go step one. You're going to have H2M. I assume that you already have H2M. I'm not going to talk about this step, so have H2M. Cool. Step two, difference between public and private games. In private, you're doing local host only. Only people connected directly to your network can see and access your server. Will not show up on the server list. If you want to be an official hoster, there is a role for that. You want to pay attention to security first and foremost. If you intend to just host with close friends, private's the way to go. Otherwise, you can go to public, and by default, the server is configured to be public, meaning it's going to show up in the server list, and anybody can join with the click of a button. Not the ideal thing if you're going to be home hosting. Home hosting is not something that's supported by H2M or the people in there. Every single video that I've seen online so far has talked about hosting publicly, and really you don't need to do that and you don't want to do that. There's way too much risk. So step three, we're going to talk about risk and security. There's always risks. This video is not intended to prevent you from having any risk at all. You're going to have risk. You can be hacked, you can be DDoSed, etc. Most VPNs used are not true VPNs. Anytime you open your PC for people, you're going to get some kind of risk. It's Call of Duty. People are out to get you. We'll share the information that I slowly figured out by myself with no help from the official source. My computer science background is a D in Java 1 and an F in Java 2, and then a subsequent dropping out of college. So this is not, I'm not an expert. I'm not teaching you anything that you couldn't have learned on your own. I'm just trying to help other people like me who looked at the official sources, asked for help, and then didn't get any. So yeah, if you open a server, you're taking a risk. It's COD. People are going to hack you. Try to understand what you're doing. Step 4, get the server files. They are out there. It's going to contain a README and a server.cfg and a server batch file. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get these files through the official server. Some members there are helpful, and some try to actively prevent you from learning from them unless you're using their paid service. So you're going to get the files. There's going to be a server CFG, a server batch file, and then a README in there. You're going to put the main, which contains the server CFG, and the batch file directly into your root for Modern Warfare Remastered. So here you can see that my server is actually in the main file, but normally, in the root file. Normally it would be in main in here. I took it out. You don't necessarily have to do that. I just like them being next to each other. But your file you'll download will look something like this. It won't have the user scripts. It will have the README. It will have one server. There's differences here. We're going to go over that here in just a moment. So step 5, understand what the files do. I probably spent like 6 hours for 3 nights every night, 6 hours each night straight trying to figure out what the files actually do and how they work. Again, I don't have a computer science background, not really. I'll share what I do understand, but take it with a grain of salt. Most of what I did was guess and check and then talk to ChatGPT. Because again, nobody would help me officially, so I did what I could. Server.bat, the batch file is what initializes the server, and the server CFG is your custom settings for your server. So if you edit your batch file, you're going to right click it and open it. You can open it with Notepad++ is ideal, but if you don't have that or if you don't want to run it, you can just do it with Notepad. But it's going to look something like this. And this is what comes out of your file. This is not exactly what we want to use. It's not exactly what works. This is the updated file. This is what does work. So you're going to want to use this. And we'll talk a little bit about what each part does. This names the second CMD or the second command prompt you're going to have. This sets CFG to equal server, and then this sets your port. The default port is 27016. I ended up using 27017 for various few reasons. And if you're having an issue like what I had, where the server would launch, it would load whatever map I told it to load, and I could check this by trying to connect to it. I could see whichever map was supposed to be loaded, but it would just say awaiting connection 1, 2, and it would just go infinitely and it would never connect. I solved that by changing this port, and then I solved some other issues by changing some of the rest of the information. Game path, this basically says it's going to be opening and looking for the game in the same file or the same, in the same file that your batch file is in. In this case, it's in the root, so it's going to look for the H2M mod in the root as well. This names the second command prompt. It's going to load your CFG, so your configuration file. It's going to list on whatever port you sell it to do. Shut down this window. This is just a message that says shut down this window, shut this window first. That's your second window. And then it's going to give this information on the window. Then it's going to open your server. The wait command tells it to wait. It's going to tell it to wait until the executable finishes running or crashes. I made the mistake of deleting this once and testing it, and it opened like 75 command prompts until it actually worked, and it was awful. The above normal basically allocates more CPU resources to the server opening, so that's good. H2M mod, so it's going to have to say at least H2M mod. It could say .exe, it could not. I don't think it really matters so much. It worked both ways for me, but I have it like this. No Steam means it's not going to check for Steam verification. It's not going to check. It's not going to try to communicate with Steam servers. Dedicated means that the server is running just for the server information. You're not trying to actually play the game and on the same command prompt, so it's dedicated. Memory fix, this was already in there. Probably addresses some issues that they had. And then execute config means it's going to actually look into your config file, and whatever settings you have edited in there, it's going to execute them. And then this was the new thing we had to add. We had to add set net port to the port. Again, it's going to look at this one again, and it's going to set net IP to 0.0.0.0. This basically lets it look at locally any IP that you're running on this machine. So if you've set a static IP, or if you haven't set a static IP, it's just going to look through all of those that's communicating with this machine, and then it's going to tell the map to rotate. So at the end of the game, it's going to rotate into the next map. Then it's going to show this information on there, and then it's going to go to server. So it's going to open up your server. That's what your batch file does, as far as I'm aware. So again, no Steam, set IP, yada yada yada. This is what it looks like. Configuration and commands. So these are all helpful server commands. This is what your configuration file is going to look like. It's going to look something like this. I again opened this in Notepad++, so it looks nice and pretty, but you can just open it in Notepad, which is on every Windows computer. These are colors you can adjust. What's fun about these colors is you can use these even in game. It'll adjust the color. So here's server host name, sets this. I have it set to rainbow, Titan Polus, no friends forever. And then your basic configuration is here. There is a way to use a password, but the way we're setting up, you don't really need this because you're only going to connect to people that you know anyways. And there is a way to set this up if you want it public and then password protected. But it's still not ideal, because if you're not running a VPN or running some sort of security, even if it shows in the lobby, even if they can't necessarily try to connect, it still opens you up for vulnerabilities. But you can play with these. The // mark, so this means that anything after it is a comment. So when the program looks at it, it's going to see this, it's going to load that, but then it's going to see these, and it's just going to see it as a comment. So that's going to load anything. It's not going to load any of this stuff, but it is going to load this stuff here, but it's not going to load anything after it. Private slot settings, this is mostly for public. We can go through this. It's not super important. The big thing is setting your game type to confirm, sets the game type of the server. Your game types are up here. And then set your map rotation. I edited this to be the maps that I like to play the most, but that's how you set your configuration file. Once your server is up and running, you can add commands into the actual command window for your server. It's the third one that'll pop up. It's going to end up being called whatever you called it in your configuration file, so it'll say this at the top so you know which one to do it. But spawnbot will spawn a bot. Spawnbot with a number behind it will spawn 10 bots. Typing in map mp_rust will change the map to Rust, assuming that you have Rust. Setting the game type to free-for-all will change the game type to free-for-all. You're then going to need to do the next command for changes to take place. So if you change the game type mid-game, it's not going to just change it mid-game. You're going to have to actually restart the map, and then it's going to load the current, restart the current map, and it's going to check your game type here. If you type say, whatever you type after it, you'll say in the game. You can type quit, which will end the server, and then this is really important to know, execute server.cfg. So if you've made changes in your CFG, like if you're playing free-for-all and you want to just do trick shots, and so you just want to get down to the last number, you can set the kill limit to 1, and and then everybody in the lobby can just try to get their one really good kill. But you're going to have to execute the server whenever you make those changes, so it actually adjusts into those changes, because it won't adjust automatically. Next thing is for getting bots. You're going to need to use a user script to get bots. There is this one. You can set it to add so many bots into the game. I have it set to just automatically set 3, and then from there I'll manually set more if I want them. I don't know the command for getting rid of bots, so this is the easiest way to make sure that I have not too many bots for a map. I don't like playing with 17 and myself bots on Rust. It's just not fun. Radmin VPN. So we're going to go into this next. What Radmin VPN is, it creates a private network similar to a local area network or LAN that allows multiple computers or devices to connect with each other as if they're physically on the same network, even if they are geographically far apart. What it is not, it only encrypts the traffic between devices with the virtual LAN that it creates. Secures connections between those users under the same Radmin VPN network, but it does not encrypt general internet traffic. So if you had Radmin VPN loaded onto your computer and you go online to Facebook, it's not protecting you in any way whatsoever there. If you're going into H2M and loading into a public match, it's not giving you any protection there. In addition, if you're running Radmin VPN and your friend connects to you with your Radmin VPN, you're protected with that connection, but if you're still hosting publicly, then anybody that joins to you through the server list, you're not getting any protection from. So Radmin VPN, it's called VPN, but it does not function like a true VPN. It doesn't really encrypt all of your traffic. It doesn't really mask your actual IP when you're interacting with things. It's free, so I don't expect it to do everything, but if your server is still hosted publicly, it's going to still open you up to vulnerabilities all over the place. So if you look at this and you think, oh, I'm protected because I'm running Radmin, no. You're only protected when you're connecting with other people locally. So definitely keep that in mind. That's not clear on any of the other videos. If you set up with Radmin VPN and then you just set up the server like normal and you port forward and do everything, you're opening yourself up to lots of problems. So using Radmin VPN, it's going to look like this. I've removed my actual Radmin VPN as well as my friend's actual Radmin VPN, just set a generic one here. This is your protected IP. So what it shows up here is going to be what you can give to others that is protected through Radmin, and then this is the protected IP of my friend. So I've already had one person, they're not online right now, connected, but what you're going to do is you're going to go to System, and then it's going to go to Firewall Exceptions, and you're going to do H2M Mod, and then I also did the CMD window containing my server, which you have to have on in the background for it to show up in there. Then you're going to go to Network, Create Network, and then you're going to set a username and password. So then you tell your friends, you give them the username and password, they launch Radmin VPN, they take your username and password you gave them, log in, and it's going to show under the list here, and they're going to be able to see your protected IP. So they'll be able to use that IP to join a match. When you join a match, you're going to have H2M launched, and you're going to touch the tilde button, which is going to open up the command in the game. Type in connect space localhost : and then whatever port you decided on, 27016 or 27017. For me, since I've set it to 27017, you want to do it here, not with the 6 that I've already put in there. But with friends, they're going to do the same thing, connect, and they're going to take whichever IP, your protected IP through Radmin that they've logged in through, they're going to type that in, and then your port, and press enter, and they're going to load into your game. They do have to be set on your network through Radmin in order to connect to that VPN. They're not going to be able to connect to it, as far as I'm aware, unless they're logged in and under your profile. The last thing to touch on is you do not port forward. Do not port forward, do not port forward, do not port forward. You don't need to do any of that. Port forwarding allows traffic publicly through that port, and you don't want your server to communicate with the master server, and you don't want it to communicate by showing up on the server list. You don't want random people joining. Most likely you're like me and you don't know enough to really add yourself any protection. You do not port forward. Don't even worry about that firewall exceptions on your port. Don't do that. It's already done through Radmin. You don't have to do any of that. Do not port forward, and you should be all connected. So we'll go ahead and launch my server.
Remember, no Russian. Let's go.
So we've launched the game first. So now my server is launched, server started, went to free-for-all, shipment, dedicated, loading the local address, locating all the assets. So I have that running in the background, so we're just going to play online, and then click this. So we click the tilde, then we're going to do connect, localhost 27017, enter. And so then we've loaded it into our server. So you can see it has the 3 bots that I set up. I have some other custom settings on my actual server. Oh, I got robbed. But anyway, so like from here you can click into your command window. You can say, and then we'll do this big chungus Titanpolis forever. And then in here we've typed in big chungus Titanpolis forever, which is kind of cool. Oh, robbed. We can do something like, we can type map space mp underscore rust. So we can do that. Press enter, and it's going to load us into Rust. We can go back to our CMD and we can do spawn bot 3, and now we've got 3 bots more loaded into here. Oh jeez, oh jeez, getting robbed. Can do G underscore game type DM, and then we can do map underscore restart, and now we're in free-for-all, or well, I guess we were already in free-for-all. Let's do G game type G underscore game type, gotta spell it right. We'll do dom for domination, so we're gonna set that, and then we're gonna do map underscore restart. So now we're playing domination. We'll spawn the bots. It's gonna spawn the bots that I've set up in my user script, so it's set 3.
Let's do this. Securing Alpha. Enemy has Bravo.
So yeah, they're in there. Again, we can do spawn bot. Let's see, we've got 4 on each team, so we need 8. So now we've got even more bots.
Target neutralized. Tango down.
And yeah, so that's how you can set up your own server.
Enemy has Charlie.
You still get the yellow XP, so you're still getting XP as if you were playing online. Oh yeah.
Losing Alpha. Tango down. Losing B.
Robbed again.
We've taken the lead.
Robbed.
Neutralized. Target down. Bravo.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that's my guide. I hope that helped.